Okay, so in the last video, we just finished building in our login and log out functionality. And now what we want to do is build in a user registration form so users can come to our website and actually sign up for an account here. So let's go ahead and start building this out. So what we'll do is we'll build out the view, and we're going to use this same template right here as the login page. And we're simply going to change the form that we render depending on what the URL route is here. So we're going to name our page and then change up the form. So let's go ahead and just go to the view and get started. So the first thing we want to do to register a user is create a new view. So we have our login view and we have our log out view. And just underneath the log out, let's go ahead and create a new view, and we're just going to call this register user. So it's going to be a standard view at this point. We'll just pass in request. We just want to render a template. So we'll just do return render. And in render, we're going to pass in request here. And for the template, we're going into users, and our template is going to be this login register.html page. So it's the same page for both, or the same template. So at this point, I just want to pass in the context dictionary because we will be using it. So let's go ahead and create an empty dictionary. So we'll do context, and we'll just set that to an empty dictionary at this point. So we have our view. And now we need to go into our URLs here. Let's just copy log out, and we'll change this to register. So we'll just do register, and then the name is going to be register user. And then the name for the actual page is just going to be register, or for the route. So register. Okay, so everything's pretty standard at this point. We just created some routes here. So let's go back into our views here, and this is how we're going to render that page conditionally. So the first thing is I'm going to create a page variable, and we're just going to say register, and then we're going to pass this in. So we'll just throw this in the template here or into the context dictionary, and then I want to copy this and throw this into the login view here, and this will just be login. So now in the template, inside of login underscore register, let's just create a condition here. So we're just going to say if the page is a register page, render one form. If it's another, render out a different form. So we'll just say if page is equal to register, and then let's close this statement here. So we'll just do end if here, end if, and then the login form is going to be the else statement. So we'll just do else. So at this point, let's just go ahead and just say register user. So we'll just create some kind of title, register user, and that should show us a difference here. So underneath this form, let's just go ahead and write some kind of message here. So underneath that input button, we'll just say don't have an account. And then inside of that tag here, or inside of the paragraph tag, we'll create a link. And let's just say register or sign up. So we're going to prompt the user to sign up if they don't have an account. So let's create that href here. And we're going to set that URL to actually register. So we'll just say URL, and that is going to the register page. Okay. So we just added this condition into our login underscore register template. And if we go to register, we're going to see a title. If we go to login, we're just going to be prompted to go to this page. So at this point, let's just take this and we'll put this into register. And we're just going to ask the same style of question. We're just going to say already have an account. And this is going to prompt the user to go to login. Okay, so not much done here. Let's go ahead and check the templates here. So our URL is good. We have that. Looks like register is spelt wrong. Registered. Okay, we need to fix that. So let's go into the template now. So inside of our login page, don't have an account, we'll hit sign up. Now we are on the register page, and we can go back and forth here. So we just have that conditional rendering, but we're using the same template. So now what I want to do is actually render out a form here. So Django has multiple ways of doing this, just like with anything in coding, we can always do the same thing multiple different ways. So what I want to do is use the built-in user creation form because it already takes care of a lot for us. It takes care of password hashing for us, so we don't have to do that ourselves, and it just makes things a little bit simpler. So let's go into that view now. And at this point, we have a pretty empty view. So it's just a register view. We're rendering out a page here into the context dictionary, the page variable. And underneath messages, let's go ahead and run an import. So we're going to do from Django.contrib and this is going to be auth.forms. And let's just import user creation form. So user creation form. So this is like a model form. So we've worked with model forms before. So all we have to do is create an instance of this form, and that will be rendered out in our page here. So it's going to look pretty bad at first, and then we're going to modify it so it's highly customizable. So for now, let's just say form, and we're just going to use user creation form, and let's render this out in the template. So we'll throw this into the context dictionary, go ahead and pass in the form itself, and inside of our template here, so if the page is register, let's go ahead and create some kind of form here. And we're going to set the method first. So we always want a post method. So we'll do post. The action is going to send us to the register page. So we'll just do URL, and we want to send that request here. So register. And then we want to pass in our CSRF token. So let's just do CSRF underscore token. So we're just kind of going over standard stuff at this point. And we also want an input. So let's set the input. And this is going to be that submit button. So type is going to be submit. And then the value will just say register user. Okay. So at this point, we have a form in that view. So this is that user creation form. So it's basically a model form based around our user, and it's designed to actually add a user to the database. So let's go ahead and pass that in. So we already passed that in through the context dictionary. We threw that in right here. And let's go ahead and output this. So we'll just do form, and to actually have some styling, we'll just do as_p, and that's just going to wrap paragraph tags around each input field and make that look a little bit nicer. So let's go back into the template. If I refresh this, let's go to sign up, and here we go. So we have this form here. So we have our username, password, and our password confirmation. So that means that we have to add in a user twice here, or the user password, just to make sure that the user password is actually matching. So before we start modifying the form, let's actually register a user. So we'll use this ugly form at this point, and we'll actually process some information. So we can go back into our view here, into the register view, and let's go ahead and check the method here. So whenever a post method is sent, we can check if request dot method. So if this is post, we'll just do post like that. Let's go ahead and process this user. So we'll just do form, and we've done this before with our model forms before, so it's actually very similar to that. We'll just do user creation form, and we'll just go ahead and pass in the request.post data. So what's going to be sent to the backend, we've already printed out the post method when we're looking at our login view here. We're just going to get back that username, the double passwords, the confirmation, and so on. So we're going to pass that into the form, and then we want to process this form. So because it's a model form already, we'll just do if form.is_valid. So we have this method here. We can run that. That's just going to check that everything is correct, all the fields match up, and no data has been manipulated or anything like that. And then we want to go ahead, and before we actually save a user, we want to go ahead and get an instance of this user. So I'm going to create the user variable, and we can do form.save, and we'll just do commit is equal to false. So I think we did this earlier in our projects at some point. I don't remember if we did commit false. No, we have not done this. So let me explain what's going on here. So instead of just saving the form right away, what we're doing is we're saving it, but we're holding a temporary instance of it. So this right here is going to go ahead and actually create a user object for us, and we can actually hold the user before we're really processing it. So why we want to do this is if we want to modify something. So at this point, I could do this from the front end, and I probably will in the form where we're going to require the username when they submit it to be all lowercase. Maybe we can require it or just convert it, but we don't want user names to be case sensitive, because that means that we can have somebody in the database as Dennis Ivy all lowercase, and then somebody else can have a name as Dennis Ivy with a capital D. So we don't want this to be an issue. So we're going to get an instance of that user, and then we're just going to do user.username, and there's different ways to do this. I'm just doing this to confirm that the username is not capitalized, and then we can just do username, or we'll do user.username.lower. So we could get this from the form directly, but I did want to show you the commit false method. So it just gives us an instance, and then we can continue processing this. So now we can just do user.save. So again, this part did not have to be done. We could have just ran form.save right here. So we can do form.save like that. But I just wanted to get the instance and make sure that the username is lowercase. So we save it. Now the user has officially been added to the database and saved. So let's go ahead and output a message here. So we want a flash message and we want to let the user know that the account was created. So we'll just create some space here. So if everything was successful, we'll just do messages dot, and this is going to be success. So if you look up the documentation for messages, earlier on we did error. So that's going to give us one type of message, and in the front end when we style this, we want this to be blue or some kind of green, I think. So green would probably be better for success. So we'll pass in the request here and we'll just say user account was created. Okay, so we pass in that message, the user was just created, and now we want to log the user in right away. So before we actually do all that, let's go ahead and just test this and make sure it works. So we just want to pass a message. This is technically not necessary. I just want to make sure we see a message. So let's go ahead and refresh this, and let's create a new user, and we'll just say Dennis1, and we'll delete some of these users and clean it up later. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and add in some kind of password, and let's go ahead and hit register. So if I register that, user was successfully created. That's perfect. That's exactly what we wanted. So if I go into the front end, now we see another user. Now the user profile information, there's nothing there at this point, so it looks bad. We'll make sure to fix that. But this is all working because of our signals. So remember, we have a user and a profile. So I want to recap this. So whenever we created a user, we also want a user model. Because we worked on our signals earlier, anytime a user model is created, we create a profile immediately. So that's what just happened there, and that's why we have the profile. So we are now able to register users. Now I can sign in as this user, so I can just do Dennis1. Let's type in that password, and now we are logged in as this user. So I can see who I'm logged in as by just going to the template and doing request.user, and that'll give me the username. I'm not going to do that at this point. So let's go ahead and change up a few things now. So let's go into that register view, and let's actually redirect our user after we log them in. So we send out that message, and now we know the user was created. So after we create the user, let's authenticate this user. So we'll just do, actually we already have our user object. So we have the instance, so all we have to do is log in the user. So we'll just do user or login. So remember, we used the login method, and this is going to create it's going to create the session-based token in the database in that table, and then it's going to add it to the cookies. Almost couldn't say that for some reason, stopped being able to talk. Okay, so we pass in the request into login. So we have the user instance, and that's another reason why this is good to do form commit false, because we can get that instance. So now that we have that, we just pass in the user, and the user will now be logged in. After we log in the user, let's just do return redirect, and we're going to send the user to the profiles page for now. So later on, that will be the home page, which is profiles, or their last page, and we're just going to go ahead and save that. So we want to check an else statement now. So if this was not valid, for some reason the form did not save, let's go ahead and create an else statement. So we want to go ahead and backspace there, and we'll just do else, and we want to output a message here. So we'll just take this right here, and we'll just say user, or let's just do an error has occurred during registration. And I'm like the worst speller when it comes to coding and talking. So there needs to be 2 R's there, I think. Okay, so if something goes wrong, we'll output this error message. If everything goes good, we'll create the user, output the message, log in the user, and redirect the user to the profile page. So it's good practice to log the user in immediately. So let's go ahead and log out really quick, and let's create a new user profile. So the first one is, let's go ahead and actually mess something up here. So let's go into sign up, and let's just do something for the name. So we'll just do something random, and then our passwords will not match here. So the passwords have to match. So if I hit register, an error occurred during registration. That's exactly what we want to see. Now let's just do Dennis2. So we'll create a second user. Now the passwords will match. Let's go ahead and confirm this. And now let's go ahead and hit register. So on registration, I was redirected to the home page. That flash message shows up, so that looks good. We'll fix up the actual display of that and how it looks later. But now the user is logged in. There we go. Now we see the user profile. So at this point, I really don't like this registration form. I think it looks really ugly. I don't like what displays here. So if I want to hide some of these messages or maybe output like a name field, I want to go ahead and be able to do that too. So let's go ahead and customize the user creation form. So I'm going to go back into my users app here. My voice just got high there. So back in my users app, and let's go ahead and create a forms.py. So we've done this before inside of the projects app where we created all of our model forms. So now we need to do this for the users app because we have not done this. So we'll go into users.py or the users app, and let's create a new file called forms.py. So from here, we want to first import a model form. So we're going to have to use this. Actually, at this point, let's just do it by default. We're not going to use a model form, but we're just going to do from Django.forms import model form. So we'll need that at some point. We also want the user object. So let's just take this right here. So from Django.contrib.auth.models import user. And we also want the user creation form. So let's paste that in here just underneath our model form. So now let's create a new user form. So we'll go ahead and create a class here. And we're just going to say custom user creation form. And this custom user creation form is simply going to inherit from user creation form. So now that means we're going to have all the attributes, all the same functionality as a user creation form because we are inheriting from that. And then we're just going to modify it. So we'll just do class meta, and the model for this is going to be the user. So this is a user creation form. So that's why we imported the user. And then fields, let's customize this. So this is going to be our first chance to customize it. And then later on, when we style this, we will need custom classes on our input fields. So we'll do what we did in that model form video. So what do I want to output here? So in the signals, when we create a user, we set the profile name to the user's first name. So let's just go ahead and make sure that we can see the first name. So we'll just do first name. So that's going to be the first thing that comes out. We want the user's email, which the user creation form by default does not give us. It just asks for a username. So I don't like that. I want to modify this. And then we can go ahead and get the username. And we also want the 2 password fields. And in the default user creation form, you can go into the Django documentation to see this. The first field is called password 1. And the second one, which is a confirmation password, is going to be called password 2. So we'll paste that in here, or we'll just type that out. So we'll just do password 2. So that's going to give us the 2 password fields. Now for first name, I don't want this to come out saying first name here. So let's first use this form and then we're going to fix that. So we'll go into our views now, and we don't need this user creation form. So let's just go ahead and remove that. Then underneath models, we'll just go ahead and import from .forms, import custom user creation form. So I just pasted that in. So this form now. So again, we have the same functionality, but now with modified fields. So we can go into register, and the field or the form that we'll output is now going to be custom user creation, and this one's going to be custom. Okay, so let's see what this looks like. So if I go back in my template, I can refresh that, and now we see the first name, email address, username, password, and so on. So now if I do Dennis3, let's just do Dennis3 now. That's going to be the name, and we can do Dennis3@email.com. We'll set the username to Dennis3. My awesome creative names here. Confirm this, and let's continue here. Let's go ahead and register. Okay, so now we see a name output because that first name value was put into the profile's name value. So in the future, what I'm probably going to do is have the user be redirected immediately to their account, or we can even customize this form to where we ask the user for their bio and all that, but I don't think that's good to have on registration. I think that we can just go ahead and redirect a user to their account and then prompt them to update their profile picture and all that other stuff. So Now let's change this because we want the full name. So I want someone to type in something like this, and then that will be output. So in that custom user field here, let's go ahead and modify this. So just underneath fields, let's go ahead and change the labels here. So we'll just do labels. And this is going to be a dictionary. And we're going to specify the field that we want to modify. So we're going to modify first name, first underscore name. And then this is going to be just name like that. So that's going to look a little bit better. So we'll just add in the comma and let's see. So if I go ahead and refresh this, there we go. So there now we have names or name. So that looks a lot better, and that's it. So we just customize our user registration. We log a user in after they're created, and we have all of our login, logout functionality. So that's it for this video. In the next video, we're just going to finish up these forms by styling this. So this is actually going to look nice finally. I just wanted to save that for the last part so you can focus on the actual functionality before we make it look nice. So I'll see you in the next video.